Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the panel again for being here. Mr. Gabriel, appreciate you being here with Western Area Power Authority. In my opening statement, I commented on a letter that was sent by the environmental litigation group Wild Earth Guardians. I know that you're aware of this. I'd like you maybe to explain what this potential litigation group expects Western to do and what effect that would have on consumers and energy costs.
Thank you. Yes, we are obviously in receipt of the letter and have acknowledged Wild Earth Guardians that we have gotten the letter. My belief is that Western more than complies with the requirements of NEPA and looking at integrated resource planning for all of its preference customers. We have not been, there's been no formal lawsuit. We have not seen anything other than that letter, but certainly if we have to reply to that, that would drive costs up. There's clearly an implication there regarding our integrated resource planning, but as I said, my belief is that we have a robust process, that we are following NEPA, and that we are managing our responsibilities in that regard very solidly.
You know, I think you lined out pretty well. I think we've got a common concern. Just held town hall meetings in my district. Pueblo was over in Grand Junction down in the San Luis Valley. Now, I've got to tell you, we've got families right now that are struggling, senior citizens that are having a tough time being able to pay their bills. If you were to accede to the demands of Wild Earth Guardians and their potential litigation, would it drive up the cost for these struggling families right now?
Well, certainly anything that drives Western cost, is reflected in the rates and would have a negative impact.
Would have a negative impact. So you're fulfilling the mission. How much does litigation cost?
That would be impossible for me to.
Do you have any litigation that's come from these groups before?
Not in particular from that group.
Other groups?
I could certainly get back to you for the record with any specific litigation costs.
Is that passed on to the consumer?
Yes, it is. It
is passed on to the consumer. Let me tell you, just talk to us just a moment. Do you try and do things in a responsible, environmentally sound way?
That's really at the core of Western's mission.
That's at the core of your mission, and you're trying to be able to deliver affordable energy. So when you get these types of suits, it actually hurts people that we're trying to be able to help, particularly in districts like mine, to where we have lower average income, struggling families, real double-digit unemployment. This is what's hurting people right now.
It certainly could, but let me stress, thus far it is just a letter, it's not a lawsuit, and it hasn't been threatened yet as a lawsuit, although I will admit it certainly contains lots of legal reference in it.
That was our assessment as well. The Craig Generating Station on the West Slope of Colorado provides over 300 jobs in my district and produces reliable, low-cost energy for our families and our small businesses, and those struggling senior citizens that I mentioned that are on fixed incomes as well. This letter from Wild Earth Guardians to WAPA singles out tri-state generation and transmission of the Craig station as a type of energy, these are all in my district, that they would like to replace with alternatives that are going to be more costly. I'm a firm believer that an all-of-the-above energy strategy is certainly going to be the best policy. We've actually passed through our committee that all-of-the-above Planning for America's Energy Future Act. What would the demands of this litigation group do to those goals?
Again, it'd be very difficult to speculate on what would do to those goals. Certainly Western's mission is to provide clean, renewable, reliable hydropower, serve our customers at the lowest possible cost, consistent with sound business practices. So certainly anything that raises those costs ultimately gets passed across in rates.
So some of the threats you mentioned, it was full of legalese. It would threaten that mission of affordable energy to our families that are struggling right now?
It certainly could, sir.
It certainly could. I think that needs to be the focus. I applaud the effort to be able to keep those energy costs low. That's what helps our small businesses, those struggling young families and senior citizens on fixed income. Mr. Pimley, I appreciate you coming in and acting as commissioner and coming into our office to be able to visit. As I'm sure you're aware, the Arkansas Valley Conduit is incredibly important. We've got I think a united effort out of our delegation in regards to this reclamation project. Is there a defined revenue stream to be able to repay for the project in the manner approved by Congress for the Arkansas Valley Conduit?
Well, as you know, sir, we completed the environmental impact statement, I think, last summer and signed the record of decision this just in the last few weeks, I believe.
Right.
Excuse me. And And in there, we noted that we did support the project from the standpoint of its benefit-cost ratio was reasonable, and that it did have a very good goal, and it has been previously authorized by the Arkansas Valley Conduit legislation.
Great.
We also recognize candidly, sir, that these are very difficult fiscal times and budget constraints.
Certainly, but Reclamation is committed to moving the construction on this project forward as
Mr.
expeditiously
Gentlemen,
as possible.
I hate to cut you off, Mr. Tipton. We will have a second round, though.
I'd now like to follow up, Mr. Pimley, on a question that we were a little bit short on time, just in regards to the Arkansas Valley Conduit project, that this construction project will move forward as expeditiously as possible.
Within the funding constraints, yes.
Okay, thanks. Also, I'd like Mr. Pimley to be able to address a bill we got to visit on a little bit yesterday, a bill that I passed through the House, signed into law, the small hydropower bill, on existing reclamation pipes, canals, and ditches. This legislation has the potential to include new hydropower generation at 373 sites. Meanwhile, another bill related to non-federal conduits was signed into law, and I'm aware that 23 non-federal conduit hydropower projects have been cited by FERC in the last year. How many sites has Reclamation cited this year?
I honestly don't have that number, sir. I know that we've had a significant uptick in interest in applications since the bill passed last fall.
But in 7 months, but there is interest that's going on?
Absolutely, yes.
So you're going to be monitoring that. Do you have any revenue projects for this program in the coming fiscal year?
I'm not sure, revenue projects, I'm not sure what you mean.
Revenue projections.
Oh, revenue
Sorry.
projections, I'm sorry. Well, I know we have the certain mill rate that is coming in. I don't have the number. We could provide that. Based on the applications that are coming in, we could do a projection.
Okay, we would appreciate if you'd identify these projects maybe in a supplement for the hearing record, and then be able to submit those with the projections on revenues coming into this subcommittee.
Sure.
Thank you very much. That's the balance of my questions. Now recognize Mr. Gosar for his.